Imagine a civilization thriving thousands of years ago, a society so advanced it rivaled ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. They built sprawling, meticulously planned cities with sophisticated sanitation systems, developed a unique script we still can't decipher, and traded goods across vast distances. This was the Indus Valley Civilization, also known as the Harappan Civilization. For over a millennium, they flourished across what is now Pakistan and northwest India. Their cities, like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, were marvels of urban planning, with grid-like streets, multi-story brick houses, and public baths. They were a peaceful people, with little evidence of warfare or standing armies. Their art, seen in intricate seals and delicate pottery, speaks of a rich cultural and spiritual life. They were masters of their environment, a Bronze Age powerhouse, and then, around 1900 BCE, they vanished. Not overnight, but over a few centuries, the bustling cities emptied, the trade routes fell silent, and their script was forgotten. What happened? How could one of the world's great ancient civilizations collapse so completely, leaving behind a mystery that has puzzled archaeologists and historians for a century? This is the story of the Indus Valley's silent collapse, a detective story written in dust and ruins. To understand the end, we must first appreciate the beginning. The Indus Valley Civilization wasn't built in a day. It grew out of earlier farming communities that had settled in the fertile plains of the Indus River and its tributaries around 7000 BCE. Over thousands of years, these small villages grew into towns and eventually into the massive urban centers we see today. The peak of this civilization, from about 2600 to 1900 BCE, is known as the mature Harappan period. During this time, they achieved incredible feats. Think about it. At a time when London was just a collection of huts, Mohenjo-Daro may have housed up to 40,000 people. Each home had access to running water and a drainage system that channeled waste away from the streets. This level of public works is astonishing and suggests a strong, centralized authority. They also standardized weights and measures, which made trade efficient and fair across their vast territory, stretching over 1 million square kilometers. Their craftsmen produced beautiful jewelry from carnelian beads, pottery with intricate designs, and thousands of small stone seals. These seals, often depicting animals like bulls, elephants, and a mysterious unicorn-like creature, are our biggest clue and biggest frustration. They contain short inscriptions in the Indus script, a language that remains one of the great undeciphered codes of the ancient world. If we could read it, it would be like hearing the Harappans speak to us directly. But for now, they are silent. Their world seems stable, prosperous, and incredibly organized. So, what went wrong? For a long time, the leading theory was a dramatic, violent end. In the 1920s, when Mohenjo-Daro was first excavated, archaeologists found skeletons scattered in the streets, seemingly unburied. This led to the Aryan invasion theory. The idea was that nomadic warriors from Central Asia, the so-called Aryans, swept down into the subcontinent, conquered the peaceful Harappans, and destroyed their cities. It was a compelling and simple story, a mighty civilization brought down by the sword. This theory even seemed to find support in ancient Hindu texts like the Rig Veda, which describe battles and the destruction of forts. For decades, this was the explanation you'd find in most history books. However, as archaeologists continued their work, this dramatic narrative started to fall apart. The evidence just wasn't there. The number of skeletons found was very small, not enough to suggest a massive battle or a citywide massacre. Furthermore, the skeletons didn't show signs of violent, war-related trauma. There were no layers of ash from a great fire, no arrowheads embedded in walls, no evidence of a final desperate battle. The great cities of the Indus weren't sacked and burned. They were simply abandoned. The invasion theory, while dramatic, was too simple. The truth, it turns out, is far more complex and, in many ways, more fascinating. The collapse of the Indus Valley wasn't a single event, but a slow, creeping process with multiple causes. So, if not a foreign invasion, what was the culprit? The answer, many scientists now believe, lies in the one thing the Harappans couldn't control: the climate. This civilization was born from the bounty of the Indus River and the annual monsoons that fed it. Their agriculture depended entirely on a predictable pattern of rainfall and river flow. But what if that pattern changed? Evidence from lake sediments, ancient riverbeds, and even the chemical composition of snail shells has allowed scientists to reconstruct the climate of the past. And they've discovered something crucial. Right around the time the Indus civilization began its decline, the monsoons started to weaken and become more erratic. The once reliable summer rains that sustained their crops began to fail. For a society built on agricultural surplus, this would have been catastrophic. Less rain meant lower river levels. The Ghaggar-Hakra River, a massive river that once flowed parallel to the Indus and supported many Harappan settlements, began to dry up completely. You can still trace its ancient path through the desert using satellite imagery. Imagine entire cities and hundreds of towns built along a river that suddenly disappears. The foundation of their world was literally drying out from under them. This environmental shift would have triggered a cascade of problems. Crop failures would lead to food shortages. Starvation and malnutrition would weaken the population. The surplus that supported the priests, traders, and craftsmen would dwindle, causing the complex urban society to break down. The climate change theory is powerful, but it's likely not the whole story. The decline was a complex puzzle, and other factors were almost certainly at play. Think about the social and economic consequences of a major environmental crisis. As resources became scarce, the intricate trade networks that were the lifeblood of the Harappan economy would have collapsed. We see this in the archaeological record. Trade with Mesopotamia, once robust, dwindles and then stops. The standardized weights and measures fall out of use. The production of luxury goods and the iconic seals ceases. The social glue that held this vast civilization together was dissolving. People were likely forced to leave the great cities in search of food and water. This wasn't a coordinated migration. It was a slow, desperate exodus. People moved east and south, towards the Gangetic Plain and Gujarat, where rainfall was more reliable. They abandoned the urban lifestyle for smaller, more sustainable rural villages. In essence, the civilization didn't just vanish, it de-urbanized and decentralized. The grand, unified culture fractured into smaller regional groups. The great cities of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa were slowly reclaimed by the earth. The sophisticated drainage systems clogged with silt. The once mighty brick buildings crumbled into mounds of dirt. The memory of the civilization faded, and its unique script was lost to time. This gradual decline also explains why the Indus script disappeared so completely. Writing is a technology of complexity. It's needed for managing trade, recording taxes, and administering a large state. As the Harappan state structure unraveled and society reverted to simpler, smaller-scale communities, the need for a complex writing system may have simply evaporated. Oral traditions would have taken over, and within a few generations, the knowledge of how to read and write the Indus script could have been lost forever. This is a sobering thought. A whole system of human expression, a window into the minds of an entire civilization, gone. The legacy of the Harappans didn't vanish entirely, though. While their cities and script were lost, some of their cultural DNA may have survived. Some scholars suggest that elements of Harappan culture were absorbed by the new populations that moved into the region. Certain religious practices, symbols, and perhaps even agricultural techniques may have carried forward, influencing the development of later Indian cultures. For example, some see echoes of Harappan iconography, like figures in meditative poses and reverence for certain animals in later Hindu traditions. It's a tantalizing possibility that the ghost of the Indus Valley still walks among us, hidden in the threads of modern South Asian culture. So, what have we learned from the silent collapse of the Indus Valley Civilization? It's a powerful and timely lesson. It shows us that even the most advanced and sophisticated societies are not immune to environmental change. The Harappans were masters of engineering and urban planning, but they were ultimately dependent on a stable climate. When that stability vanished, their world fell apart, not with a bang, but with a whimper. Their story is a stark reminder of the delicate balance between human civilization and the natural world. It demonstrates that collapse is not always a sudden, violent event. It can be a slow, grinding process of decentralization and adaptation, driven by resource scarcity and environmental stress. The mystery of the Indus Valley isn't just an ancient puzzle. It's a cautionary tale for our own time. As we face our own challenges with climate change and resource management, the empty streets of Mohenjo-Daro have a lot to teach us about resilience, adaptation, and the fragility of even the greatest civilizations. The people of the Indus Valley left behind no grand monuments to kings or wars, only the remains of their well-ordered cities and a script we cannot read. Their silence speaks volumes, reminding us that the foundations of any society are only as strong as the environment that supports it. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time to explore the mysteries of the Indus Valley. It's incredible to think about what was lost, but also what we can learn from their story. What do you think was the main reason for their decline? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into ancient history, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more explorations of our world's greatest mysteries. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.